Winter is a time we should embrace our riding and not hibernate. And by that, I mean unless the weather is, well, truly apocalyptic, then there's no reason why you can't still get out and ride. But in winter, the roads are typically dirtier, wetter, saltier and darker than they are the rest of the year. And all this combines together into a perfect cocktail of bike death. That said, you're going to want to take care of your pride and joy so that it takes care of you. Here's 5 things you should be doing. It's a horrible fact, but it's certainly the case where I live, that punctures are more common in winter. Now, there are a number of reasons for this. Potholes are seemingly more common and larger in winter, and this can be down to a process called freeze-thaw. But also potholes can often be hidden by being filled with water and riding in lower light conditions. And there's more debris on the road in winter, which is often down to the increased rainwater doing an excellent job of washing flints and thorns all across the road. Consequently, I'd suggest that you swap to a dedicated winter tyre, something like this Continental 4 Season, which has an added layer of puncture protection, which is going to help you stop getting a puncture when you really don't want to get one on a cold winter's ride, but also a tougher rubber compound too. Now, this is something I like to do in winter, and I also like to go for a slightly wider, sort of 28mm width tyre, as this gives a bit more grip when the roads are generally slippier. Now, winter tyres do have a slight penalty with regards to rolling resistance. They're a little bit slower than summer tyres, generally speaking, but I don't consider this a bad thing, because when you switch back onto your summer tyres, it feels like you're coming out of hibernation. They are noticeably quicker, and it feels great. Something else you may want to consider doing as well is running a dedicated set of winter wheels so that you don't trash your Sunday best hoops. But more on that in a little moment. Use lights and be seen. Now, even if you're not riding in the dark, the winter months can often be very gloomy, and consequently I always like to ride with a rear light on the back of my bike, but a front one is also strongly advised. If I'm going to be riding in a non-urban area and it's likely to be dark, then my approach would be to have several smaller flashing lights front and rear that enable other road users to see me, and then some bigger units to illuminate and light my path. The other reason for having multiple lights is that if you're forgetful and you don't charge one of them, or if one simply fails, you've always got a backup and can remain visible to others. Next, we're going to talk about lube. Now, how about dry lube? Well, unless you live somewhere really sunny in winter, in which case you're probably not even watching this video, you can forget it. What you want is wet lube. And the reason for that is that dry lube washes off very quickly as soon as there's some rain. If you use a dry lube and it washes off, it can turn a lovely bike ride into, well, a very miserable one, with your drivetrain sounding like a rusty bag of spanners. Wet lube can make your bike a little bit dirtier and it attracts dirt a bit more than a dry lube, but the crucial thing here is that it stays attached to your chain even when it rains. Remember though that your drivetrain is going to get muckier in winter, and consequently you should degrease it as often as possible, as if you allow the dirty lube to build up, it turns into a grinding paste which can really wear down your components. Sticking with lube for a moment, but in its semi-solid state, let's talk about grease. Now, I like to cover sealed bearings in the thickest grease suitable for this application, and my preference is marine grease. This grease does a great job of staying in place for a long time because it's so thick and viscous. It's also resistant to salt and corrosion. But bear in mind that if you're going to apply it to a cup and cone bearing, for example, it won't spin as freely because it is so thick. Now, this grease does a great job, but if you can't get hold of it, then a reapplication, well, a fresh application of a multi-purpose grease will do just fine. Brakes and rims. Now, us disc brake users can chuckle here, but if you're using rim brakes, then the increased amount of dirt and water on the road can combine to cause serious potential damage to your rims as it wears it down when you're braking. That said, you're going to really want to take care of them. Firstly, we'd recommend that you don't use your best wheels in winter, but we'd also recommend that you frequently clean down your rims with some soapy water, and also clean the insides of your brake pads as well, so that there's no dirt stuck in there which is going to scrape into the rim. And if you're using disc brakes, then although these perform better and arguably require less maintenance in bad conditions, you should still wipe down your discs with a disc brake cleaner and clean your pads too, as this will prolong the life of them as well. We're going to recommend that you try and clean your rims and the insides of your brake pads as often as possible, as this will help prolong the life of your rims. But also keep an eye on how quick your pads are wearing, as they can wear down at an alarming rate in winter when the roads are dirty. Also, consider swapping out to a wet weather set of brake pads, as these do actually make a difference, and braking in the wet, the performance is much less than braking in the dry. Finally, we've got Mudguards / Fenders if you're American. Now, we're finishing on a bit of a controversial one here, because not everyone likes the use of Mudguards. Some people think they look pants. Fools. Mudguards help keep you dry and healthy and help keep your bike working better and for longer. But how? Well, the main way they work is by containing all the road spray in the mudguard, and this stops it getting all over your bike and also into areas where there's grease, where if you get water in there, it will quicken the process of washing that grease out, meaning that the bearings will dry up and get rusty, and you'll have to replace them sooner than you ordinarily would. Mudguards also help keep you and your bike cleaner by capturing a lot of the dirt behind them. So this keeps your feet cleaner and drier, but also your down tube as well, and notably your bum. Now, what kind of mudguards should you go for? Well, that depends on your bike. Some bikes have special dedicated eyelets that fixed mudguards can slot into. But if you don't have those on your bike, don't worry, because there's loads of options available now for bikes that don't have them. So guards such as these can fit onto the fork and onto the seat stays, and you can still get good coverage. But you can also go for something like a simple ass saver, which won't offer much protection, but it will keep your bum a bit drier. If you're going to go down the mudguard route, then I would suggest going for as much coverage as possible. Now, this is going to depend on your specific frame, because you might have some issues with regards to clearance, but it's worth doing because it's going to keep you and your bike drier and cleaner, and it's also going to help stop your parts wearing as fast as they would without them. I hope you found this video useful, and if you have, then please give it a thumbs up and share it with your mates. And for another video, I highly recommend size 15-minute bike cleaning video, because it's an excellent way to efficiently keep your pride and joy in good condition during the harsh winter months. You can click here.